Ms. Denise Poor asked whether we will consider implementing shock therapy to revamp wages of low-income Singaporeans. I share Denise's and many Singaporeans' dismay when we look at the state of some of these sectors. In October last year, during the parliamentary debates on the President's speech, I had said that I was not happy with the wages of our cleaners. Let me be quite clear about where we stand. While the broader group of low-wage workers have seen improvement in the last 5 years, the current levels of pay of our cleaners and some of our other lowest wage occupations is unsatisfactory. We have to find the best ways to improve the incomes of all low-wage workers, in particularly for those groups which have seen very little or no improvement. So what are the strategies to increasing and raising wages? Well, to do this sustainably, we must continue to do 3 things right. First, we have seen that the incomes of low-wage workers are actually very badly affected when the economy falls into recession or when the economy does not do well. So we have to ensure that we need to recover quickly whenever the economy takes a dip, and to make sure that we are able to sustain good, decent economic growth over time. This is the only way that we can make sure that we keep unemployment low, keep our labour market tight, and therefore create pressures to help grow incomes and wages. Second, we must invest in and continuously improve the productivity, innovation, and skills of our companies and workers. Without significant productivity improvements in the next decade, we will not be able to improve income significantly, and in particularly on a sustained basis for Singaporeans. And third, we must pay attention to ensuring that our lower wage workers, especially in those sectors mentioned earlier, benefit from the growth that we enjoy. And I'll talk about this in more details later. In essence, all 3 strategies must go hand in hand if we are to succeed in achieving inclusive growth. Ms. Denise Poor asked about the impact of a shock therapy on productivity and our businesses, especially the SMEs. Well, let me share what we learned from our last experience of sudden and large increases in wages in the 1980s. The NWC's wage correction policy from 1979 to 1981 came after a period when wages had in fact been held down. However, wages ended up rising much faster than productivity, and hence Singapore's unit labour costs rose by almost 40% from 1980 to 1985. This was a sharp increase compared to that of our competitors during the same period, which were mainly the other Asian NIEs. Now, not all of this was due to the initial 3-year wage restructuring, as wages continued to rise quickly after 1981. However, when wages are pushed up artificially and pushed up much faster than productivity is able to improve, there's a continuing dynamic of wages and prices feeding into each other, expectations, demands, and so on. And it forces wages to continue to go up. And moving up in terms of the wages was difficult to avoid, and that was what essentially happened. So in the first half of the 1980s, the loss of competitiveness because of this increase in wages did not have a significant impact on our exports because external demand was booming. But the moment external demand began to decline and the demand eased, the effects of a loss of competitiveness was very severe. Tens of thousands of local jobs were lost. And it's not just tens of thousands of local jobs, tens of thousands of workers, but tens of thousands of families were affected as well. The impact is not trivial. To regain competitiveness and to create jobs as a response to the situation in 1985, in 1986, the NWC recommended a wage standstill for 3 years. We also had to cut employers' CPF contribution rates very sharply from 25% to 10%. Equally important was the NWC's emphasis on the need to focus on productivity improvements as the basis for sustainable wage increases. And over the last 2.5 decades, this focus has served us well. Wages overall have increased and grown substantially along with productivity. What it comes down to essentially is this. We have to avoid extremes of one form or another. One end of the spectrum of policy options is to mandate large rises in wages and hope that productivity gains will follow. In fact, this would be seemingly the easy option. At the other end, we could take a completely market approach. We could simply wait for market forces to do the work of raising wages in a tight labour market with minimal government intervention or tripartite efforts. The approach we are taking essentially is a balanced one, which involves deliberate intervention to support restructuring, to raise skills, and to ensure that our lower wage workers get a fair share of productivity gains. It is an active strategy, and we are not leaving things to the market, but neither should we engage, we feel, in experiments which would put our workers and businesses at risk.